This is Alabama Politics with Steve Flowers, an in-depth interview with Alabama's top political newsmakers. Now, from the studios of Troy University, here is Steve Flowers.
I'm Steve Flowers, and welcome to Alabama Politics. Folks, we're very fortunate tonight to have as our guest the chairman of the Montgomery County Commission, Doug Singleton. It's been several years since Doug was on the show, but I really like to get the Montgomery leadership on the show because this show is based in Montgomery. We film it here at the Rosa Parks building in downtown Montgomery, and Doug's a lifetime resident of Montgomery and knows a lot of people, probably like Kirk Hatcher, who was on the other day. He's probably kenned a lot of people here in Montgomery County, yep. And it's natural for him to be in government and politics here in Montgomery, and it's a big county, so he's got a big job, and we think the time being out and being with us, because most of our viewers who are watching the show live are here in Montgomery County. So we're very fortunate to have the chairman of the commission, and Chairman Singleton is nice enough to be with us today. Thank you for coming, Commissioner.
Hey, I'm glad to be here. I like you just called me Senator. You already gave me a promotion.
I know it.
Yeah, that's a nice promotion. Don't tell Will Barfoot you said that. Yeah.
Well,
knocking Will out.
Actually, I like that. I have Senator Will Barfoot and Senator Clyde Chambers and Senator Kirk Hatcher on every year because it's a River Region show, and I like the Montgomery to give primarily. And I have Reed Ingram, who is, I'm sure, a close friend of yours.
Oh, yeah. You got Reed and Will. I'm sure nobody watches when they're on there, though.
I don't have them on together.
It's going to kill your advertising. Don't have them on there together now. So.
But now, you and Reed have similar backgrounds, though.
Yeah, Reed and I have been close friends for a long, long time. Reed's such a great, great guy. I eat breakfast on Saturdays with Will. So we all.
Where do y'all eat? Pike Road?
Down the Wallahatchie Fire Station.
Uh-huh.
It's a bunch of old-time Pike Road guys, and they meet down there and at the fire station. Really has nothing to do with the fire station outside of them being kind enough to let us sit in there on Saturday mornings, drink coffee, and somebody will bring biscuits every Saturday. We rotate it around, and it's just it's good for me to be down there because I learned so much history about Pike Road. You've got guys that are in their 80s, and they have been in Pike Road their entire life, so I've learned so many great, great things. And Will comes. Will's probably the youngest one in the whole group.
He's not about 52 years. 50.
Yeah, I think he's mid
50s.
52, 54, something like that. So he's the youngest one in the group, I think, or one of the youngest ones. So it's good to be down there with him.
Doug, you don't remember calling you Doug, do you?
I wish you would.
Doug, now talking about that, would y'all that club have a name, or y'all just kind of grew up? How does that work?
I know it. I'll be honest, they have done it for many, many years. It's.
Did Bubba Trotman used to go to that thing?
You know, Bubba never did. I used to eat breakfast with Bubba. Every Saturday before I started going to the Pike Road. Bubba and I would we rotated around. Went to Sweet Creek some.
Yeah.
He liked going to Chappie's Pepper Tree some. So Bubba was my regular breakfast person. Saturday morning, and we became great friends. And my wife and I would go pick him up on occasion, take him out to dinner. And Bubba, towards the end of his life, he had gotten dementia a little bit.
I didn't know.
A little bit. It was funny when I was first running for office. Bubba gave me a little money to support my campaign, and he every Saturday he'd go, "Doug, what are you running for?" I said, "County Commission." He
gave me money, but he wasn't sure what you were running for.
And he'd go, "Good luck." He told me that every Saturday. Now I've got elected, and I was in office months and months and months, and up to his death, Mr. Trotman would go every Saturday, "Doug, what are you running for?" I said, "County Commission." He'd go, "Good luck." And Charlie and I are friends, his son Charlie, and so I would always tell him those stories, and I still text Charlie. I've got Bubba's birthday in my phone. So when it's Bubba's birthday, I will send Charlie a text and say, "Hey, just want to tell you happy birthday for your dad." But, we sit and laugh about Bubba saying good luck and all that, and not remembering he already told me that. But he could take my wife and I into his. It used to be a billiard room, but he had a pool table, and over that table he had all kind of pictures and trophies, and on every wall, 4 walls, it was covered with pictures. And Bubba would go through those pictures, and when I was at his house, he'd go, Doug, now look at this one here. This is when Charlie played at Jeff Davis, and they beat LaFleur 21-14 on the I mean, he could remember every picture in that house, and he would tell me just about every time we'd go, he'd always say, come here, I want to show you some. And I really, really did enjoy Bubba Trotman.
I did too. You know, Doug, I go so far back with Mr. Bubba. He and my mama, see, Mr. Bubba grew up in Troy, and I live around the corner, still live in Troy. My house around the corner is my house in Troy is right around the corner from where his aunt, Miss Lucy Nall, lived, and then Bubba grew up on College Street. But Mama and Bubba graduated high school together, and we stayed friends. I remember the first time I ran for the legislature was '82 and was elected. Bubba ran for Commissioner of Agriculture. And we all down here thought Bubba was going to win that race because he was so popular in this, but it showed you the votes were in North Alabama.
Yep.
Albert McDonald was a state senator from Huntsville, and Bubba carried our southern part of the state, 8 to 2. But he got beaten North Alabama, and but Bubba Trotman, I went home one day. I had lunch like you did. Bubba would have me have lunch with him, and I just admired Bubba Trotman so much. He epitomized, Doug, the word Southern gentleman.
Oh, no doubt.
He was if you had to put it in a dictionary, I'd put Bubba Trotman's. But I told Mama one time, I went home and told Mama, I said, Mama, I had lunch with Bubba Trotman. And I said, Mama, I believe Bubba Trotman was one of the finest gentlemen I've ever known. And she said, Steve, he was just that way growing up. He had that same kind of manners. You know, Bubba was such a social animal. He went 2 or 3 Sunday school classes.
Oh, he was.
He went to the one, the church downtown, the Episcopal church. Then he'd go over to the Baptist church.
You know, his wife had passed away, and Bubba was a widower.
He married Dave Dora a long time.
Yeah, and then he, towards the end of his life, I guess it was his female friend or whatever.
Dora Haas, what it was.
And he used to tell me that he'd always tell me that she had a stroke, I think, later in life. He said, yes, she had a stroke, but she kisses just as good. He told me that. Now, Bubba was 90 years old, 89, 90 years old. And but she just kisses just as good as she did before. So.
Hey, Doug, now what year were you elected to the county commission?
The first time was, I can't remember 2016.
And this is 2023. So you've been on this 7 years.
7 years.
When was the last time you were on the show? About 4 years ago. You weren't chairman then.
I think it's been 3 or 4 years ago. I was not chairman. In 2020, when we all of us got reelected on the county commission, I think a couple of us was unopposed, but all 5 got reelected.
And when the last time y'all ran? 2022?
2020. So we run again in 24. March of 24 is when our primary is.
That's right. You ran in 16. So you run in presidential.
We're on the presidential ballot.
All 5 of y'all are.
Yep. I always joked that I was on the same ballot with Trump and Biden and everybody else. And of course they were on the front top. I was on the back page at the bottom, but I was on the same sheet of paper with them. But we re-elected, when you get elected on the county commission, the 5 commissioners come together at the first meeting. You elect a chairman, and then you elect a vice chairman. Well, we re-elected Elton Dean as our chairman. Elton had been there 20 years.
After the 2020 election.
Yeah, Elton had actually been there 20 years. He'd been chairman the past 10 years, basically. And he was vice chair when Todd Strange was the chairman, and then when Todd moved to the mayor's office, Elton moved into the chairman, and he got reelected 2 or 3 times, or 2 times, I guess, to be chairman. So I was elected vice chairman. And now in the county commission, the vice chairman really holds no power. To be honest with you, it's unless something happens to the chairman, and the chairman can't attend the meeting. Well, I was vice chairman, not ever thinking, when I got put in the vice chairman spot, I never thought I'd ever be chairman. You just don't think about Elton possibly dying.
Had he been sick at all?
Yeah, Elton got sick back in, let me get my years. This is 20, make sure I got the right year, 2023.
Now.
He got sick in the November of 21, and he went in the hospital, spent about a month in the hospital, got out around Christmas, was out for 6 weeks maybe. He attended a couple of our commission meetings when he was out of the hospital. I would go pick him up, and he was on a walker and then a wheelchair, but I'd go pick him up at his house and I'd bring him to the commission meeting and get him in there to this chair and all that. He didn't want people to see him in a wheelchair, so I'd wheel him down the hall, but when he went into the meeting, he got on a walker and walked in with a walker. So Elton got sick again about January, and he never got out of the hospital out of that. He went to rehab a little bit, but he died, I think, June the 12th. So he spent probably about
22 or 21?
22. So he's been dead now about 9 months. And you know, again, when I was vice chair and Elton was chairman, we had a relationship that's not very common. He was a black Democrat, I'm a white Republican, but we had such a love for each other, Steve.
Yeah.
He would, I never forget, he told me one time when I first got on the commission that Bill Joseph was the chairman, and he said Bill would tell Elton that I love you, and Elton said I love you back. You know, and over time, Elton got that way with me. He would tell me, he'd say, I love you, and I say, I love you too. And it wasn't like sometimes when you just say, love you, Steve, like you're hanging the phone up or something.
Yeah.
This was genuine, because I remember one time, he said, I love you, and I said, well, I love you too, Elton. He said, he grabbed my face, he said, no, my white brother, look at me, I love you. And so from that point on, we had a very, very good relationship. I'll share a quick story with you. He was in the hospital, like I said, the last 4, 5, 6 months of his life, and his family was so good to me. They allowed me to go see him. Elton was very private, so outside of his preacher and his family, I was really the only other one that had access to go see Elton anytime I wanted to go see him. So I would try to go every 3 days. I tried to make sure I didn't let 72 hours get by without seeing him.
Was in the hospital at home?
He was at hospital, and then he went to Encompass Rehab, and then he went back to the hospital. And so he was, like I said, nobody was got to see him much, but that family allowed me to do it. So one time Todd Strange said, look, I really want to go see Elton. And I told Todd, I said, Todd, they're very private, but I don't think they would mind if you went with me. So I said, meet me down there. But I said, Todd, I want to tell you now, the last time I saw him 2 days ago, he wasn't in good shape. He was declining, and I said, he really didn't even wake up. I talked to him, but he'd grunt at me some. I said, but you're more than welcome to go with me. So Todd went with me, and as we're going in the room, the nurse is coming out, and they had done some type of procedure in his throat, because he was always having a hard time talking. And when he saw Todd, he perked up, and we talked. We had the best conversation when Todd was there, and he could talk. It was the best he had talked in 2 months. We were just talking, and every time I'd ever go see Elton, him lying in bed all the time, he'd say, rub my back. So I'd rub his back. So that day we're sitting there, and he looks up at me and he says, rub my back. I said, okay. So I started rubbing his back, and Todd looks at me like I'm crazy. And I look at him like that, and Todd goes, okay. So Todd starts rubbing his back. So we're both rubbing his back. And I made a comment. I said, I wish CNN or Fox News could be here today and see 2 white Republicans rubbing a black Democrat's back. I said, you just don't see that across the country, but you could see that in Montgomery, Alabama.
That would have been a good story.
It would have been a great story. And Elton goes, lower. And I said, Elton, I'm not going to rub your butt. He just so he just laughed. But that was the best day that he probably had in the last month of his life. I remember the day he died, we had a county commission meeting. And like I said, I said, I'm going to go see Elton after the meeting. So our meeting starts at 9 in the morning, but I'm an early riser, so I'm headed downtown. It's about 6:30 in the morning. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and stop by the hospital. Instead of waiting after the meeting, I'll just go by now. And I got there, and his family was all in the room with me. I had no idea that he had declined that much, that they called the family in the night before. His family was there, and I'm there with him and the family. I was very appreciative for them to allow me in there. And I got to see his vital signs go down to the point where I knew it was time for me to probably step out of the room. But I got to be there right at his last few minutes. I left the room, told the family, hey, I'm going to let y'all be alone. I walked downstairs, and by the time I'm getting in the car, Brandon, his son, called and said, Dad just died. So I got to be there right to the last possible minute. But I loved Elton Dean. Elton Dean loved me. We had such a great working relationship. We have known each other for many years through youth sports and all. And, you know, a lot of people may have not have liked Elton or something, but if they'd have known him like I knew him, his heart was in the right. I've never seen anybody better with race relations than Elton was. Elton was one of those guys that really got it. I mean, he really got it, and we don't have that many anymore. But I always tell people when I talk, I said, you know, if everybody, white, black, Democrat, Republican, could have that type of relationship where you just do what's right, not what you want, not what's best for your party or your race. You do what's best for the citizens of Montgomery County, and that's kind of what Elton did.
Doug, now you from, were you born and raised in Pike Road area?
No, I was born and raised in Boylston.
But it's in Montgomery County.
You know where Boylston is?
I can't
You know where
quite-
Chisholm is?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, Boylston's a poor part of Chisholm.
Okay.
So I was born in Boylston,
Here in Montgomery County.
in Montgomery County, North
Did
Montgomery.
you go to school in Montgomery?
I went to school through Montgomery.
Montgomery City Schools or Pike?
I went through Chisholm Elementary, and I ended up graduating from Central Academy. It was St. James now.
Okay, okay.
So I ended up graduating from there, and I went to Huntington College.
So it was a private school called Central
It
Academy?
was Central Alabama Academy. It's since
It was
closed.
a prelude to St. James?
Yep. Well, St. James was also at the same time, but the property that Central Alabama Academy was owned was taken over by St. James. We had a group that went to, it was a group of athletes, and we all went there together. It was probably about 10 or 12 of us.
Did you play sports in high school?
Played sports in high school. And
Everything, and football?
you had to play everything back
I
then.
thought it was rough. Somebody in trouble.
Small school. And then I went to Huntington College, played baseball for 4 years.
So you went to Huntington, played baseball at Huntington?
Yes, sir.
What position you play in baseball?
That's a good story, Steve. I started out as a freshman as a shortstop, but I ended up playing catcher my second year out of necessity. We had 2 scholarship catchers. They both flunked out in the fall. And I had caught some in high school, so I got stuck catching. Worst year of my life was catch. I hated it. Then the next 2 years, I ended up playing first base.
So you really hadn't been out of Montgomery. You've been in Montgomery all your life.
I've been in Montgomery most every day of my life, except I was general manager of the Coca-Cola Company in Opelika in Alex City.
For how long?
4 years.
But besides those 4 years, you went to college here and everything.
Yes, sir. I'm rooted pretty deep in Montgomery.
How did you gravitate to Pike Road? How did you get out there?
Well, we were living in Old Cloverdale, and then I got a house in Deer Creek. And then we wanted to get out a little bit out in the country and have a little bit of land, a little privacy. My wife likes a lot of privacy. So I found this place. It's 2.5 acres. It's in the town of Pike Road, but if you walk out my backyard, you're in the city of Montgomery.
You're right there on the line.
I'm touching the line.
That's perfect.
Yeah, so you can actually walk. I'm off of Vaughn Road, kind of behind St. James Church. There's a big lake behind my house back there, but if you left my house and drove to Walmart, and I walked from my house to Walmart, we get there about the same time, because you have to go out and come around. But you can walk straight through my woods, and you're just about to Walmart.
Now, is your wife from Montgomery?
She's from Montgomery, too.
Now, how many children do y'all have?
3.
All of them out of the house now?
Well, I've got 2 out of the house. I've got a 35-year-old that works for Montgomery Waterworks, very successful. I've got a 32-year-old now, nurse for Jackson Hospital.
Here in Montgomery,
in Montgomery. They're both here. And then I've got a 23-year-old who's, quote, still in the house but working.
Doug, now tell me where your district is. out of the 5 districts, what's your number? District what?
District 5.
Okay, it's District 5. It's Pike Road. Is it Wind Lakes in East Montgomery?
I've got in my district, about half of my district is inside the city limits of Montgomery. I've got Town Lakes, Wind Lakes, Sturbridge, Deer Creek, Halcyon in the city limits. And
Tell me again, Wind Lakes, Deer Creek.
Town Lakes, Sturbridge,
Sturbridge in your district.
and Halcyon, all of Halcyon. Most of Halcyon's in my district. Kind of down Bell Road east.
How many people do y'all represent?
45,000. A little bit more than 45. And then I've got
About like a state house seat.
just about. And then I've got the town of Pike Road, which is about 25% of my district, and then about 25% is unincorporated areas, such as the Mountain Megs.
Who gets down toward Raymond?
That's me.
Okay.
I go until the last redistricting. I used to touch Elmore County, Macon County, Bullock County, Pike County, and Crenshaw County.
Tell me all the 4 commissioners' names, if you would.
Isaiah Sankey is the vice chairman now.
He has he's inside Montgomery.
He's nearly all in Montgomery. He has North Montgomery. He has my old neighborhood, Chisholm, Boylston. He has that. He also has the Flatwood community.
Okay.
So he has about 5 or 6% of his district might be unincorporated. Then you've got Carmen Moore Ziegler, who took Elton's district.
He's a Democrat too.
She's a Democrat. She's on the west side. She has about probably about 60-70% inside the city limits, about 30 and outside. She has the Hopo, Pentlala, unincorporated areas. Then you got Dan Harris and Rhonda Walker, who's
you and Ron are 2 Republicans.
2 Republicans, 3 Democrats. And their districts are all inside the city limits of Montgomery.
What would Rhonda have? Cloverdale? And
No, Rhonda has the
McGee Estates?
The Atlanta Highway area.
Okay.
She has Arrowhead. I got a little bit of Arrowhead, but she has Arrowhead, County Downs, Forest Hills. I think she has Forest Hills.
Yeah.
Dalrata. That's all her stuff.
Yeah. Well, so y'all get along pretty well together.
We all get along. You know, that's the thing about the. I've been on the county commission 7 years. I don't think we've ever had a vote that went along racial or party lines. I can't remember ever having one. We may have had one recently that went that way, but it wasn't like a very controversial stance. You know, it was one of those that. But to answer your question, now we don't always vote 5-0. We do probably 90% of the time, but we don't always vote 5-0. But sometimes it'll be 1 Republican and 2 Democrats voting together, or 2 Republicans and a Democrat, or we work so well together and we respect each other. We don't always agree, but we respect each other. And I can say this about my colleagues: they vote for what's best for Montgomery.
Yeah.
You know, I've always tried to make even when I pray at commission meeting, I always say, Lord, help us do what's best for all Montgomery County. And we got to do what's best for the west side just as much as we do the east side. I represent the east side, but I do recognize, growing up on the north side, that a lot of times they need a little more help than I need. And so I try to do that, keep in mind what is best for all Montgomery County.
Well, you know, Doug, you and Reed Ingram and Will Ballfoot have really very, very similar districts when it comes to Montgomery County.
Same people.
Now, Reed, he actually was in that commission seat prior to going to the House. He's a good man.
Great guy.
He is one great guy. He's a hard-working
guy.
my
gosh, you know.
I say, Reed, what you doing? He got up at 2 o'clock this morning, drove to North Carolina to get some vegetables.
I know.
I mean, he worked. He still got car business, doesn't he?
No,
He's
so full time with Sweet Creek. But I think that's just in Reed's DNA.
I think it is too.
I don't think that's how he enjoys it. He works hard. He don't take holidays hardly, and he needs to. But a guy that's just a good guy. You know, he's one of those guys that you can pick the phone up and call, and he will do anything for you. I mean, he's done stuff for me, like my mama lives down there kind of close to Reed, a lot closer to Reed than to Doug. And there have been times when, I'd call Reed and say, hey, can you go pull my mama out of the ditch down there, back the car in the ditch, or tractor's stuck, or can you go check on my mama? Man, Rita, go do it. I mean, I can't think of
he's a good guy.
A better guy.
He really is. Both of y'all are. But I would think, though, we've only got 2 minutes left, that you having that district where part of your districts in Montgomery City and parts that grow in Pike Road, there'd be some jealousy over lines or something like that. Have you been drawing the controversy about?
No, we just did the census in 2020, and we just.
I'm talking about like city lines or where Pike Road will have a Walmart or something like that.
No,
there was a fight one time over that. Remember, that was before your time when the city and Pike Road fought over a
Home
piece
Depot
and
and all that. No, I don't really have much. I represent both, and
yeah.
I want to see both. Both needs to thrive. For Montgomery to be successful, they really need Pike Road. They need Prattville, Wetumpka to all be successful. And for Prattville, Wetumpka, and Pike Road to be successful, they really need Montgomery to be successful.
Oh, yeah.
So we actually are looking at now, and I've actually initiated where about once a quarter we're going to have a breakfast or something with the mayors from all the little towns, all Prattville, Wetumpka, Pike Road, Montgomery, and myself, and we're going to kind of rotate around, and we're just going to get together and talk. Because one thing that, Steve, we have missed here in central Alabama is that we need to start working together better, from the elected officials in the State House to the local county officials, city officials. We need to be one team, and that's why you talk about North Alabama and all the success they're having in Huntsville. And I'm going through Leadership Alabama now with a bunch of those guys, and what I see is unity. They're all together, and it's not just Bill Battle and Huntsville. It's 50 miles out, little towns, and they're all together. You think they're Huntsville, even though they're not Huntsville.
It's showing up in the legislature too.
It is.
It's showing up in the legislature.
And it's a strength.
It
And that's
really
what
is.
we need. That, to me, that's the #1 challenge we have in Central Alabama.
Now Jefferson may be a little more divided than y'all are. They've always been divided.
But
They're getting
again,
together a little bit too.
but we've got to be more together, more unity, more working, and fighting for Central Alabama like they do in Mobile County and Madison County.
Well, Doug, I hate to tell you, our time's up. It goes by in a hurry.
Now we could talk all day, couldn't we?
We may have, but if you have time, get you back on again. But do it more often because I like to get the Montgomery leaders on the show. But thank you for taking time to be with us.
Thank you. I love reading your articles once a week on Montgomery Independent, and I love your stories and your book and the whole 9 yards.
Well, thank you, Doug. Folks, our guest tonight's been Doug Singleton, Chairman of the Montgomery County Commission, and he's from Pike Road. We appreciate him taking time out of his busy schedule. We thank you, viewers, for watching Alabama Politics. Thank y'all.